If you like my videos, please like, subscribe, and don't forget to leave a comment below if you have any questions. This build is a classic custom create Ice Nova, just using Inquisitor to be a bit more tanky. And thanks to Aegis Aurora and that's what we're Inquisitor, we don't have to worry about like the pen, because we're getting this from the Ascendancy class. We're getting a lot of regions from the Pious Path, so you won't be dying that quite often, as long as you're not gonna be rolling some kind of ridiculous mod like extra damage on top of extra damage and you're gonna be clicking the altars. So we can face tank a Shaper's Slam. If you go to the Shaper's clip, you can see that. So the damage is like quite alright. It's not the best, but it's good enough to do like the most of the generic things such as mapping or popping your sentinels, do runing every now and then some kind of guardian, Shapers. Here's some quick tips. If you run into the mana, you should check the Flask section. And I think this is the most tricky part, because I'm using an inspiration, but when I'm cycloning, I'm not generating the inspiration charges. I get my inspiration charges from the Ice Novas that I'm casting while I'm hitting the crit. But you cannot reduce your cost of mana to 0. You have to spend some mana. So you cannot get too many corrupted items. I only have a chest and the gloves, and that gives me a global -4. But if you get another item, this will make your Ice Nova cost 0. Then you won't get the inspiration charges, so you won't get the elemental damage from the inspiration. So to test it out, just drag your Ice Nova onto the bar, use your mana flask or your diamond flask, whatever flask you're gonna be using with the reduced mana cost, and see how much your Ice Nova cost. As long as it's cost 1 or a bit more, you should be fine. My Ice Nova in this build cost me 2 mana. I left another timestamp for the Militant Fate, if they're gonna be expensive, like a quick trick with the divines. So now you can enjoy the video watching me killing some guardians.
What a fight is to exist. Feel your life train away. Mortal flesh is so fallible. None resist my entropy. Grasp your mortality tightly. Feel death's pull. What sweet, sweet treat.
That stretches
The fights must never end. Take this vitality boon. The most of my might. Life is so brittle.
lead to a crucible that stretches the sanity. stretches.
Wanting fighters to exist. Grasp your mortality tightly. Struggle or strangle. I will never tire of this.
That's
Entertain me. Mortal flesh is so fallible. Shadow, rise and fight. Handle this. Stalk and hunt. Mortal flesh is so fallible. Time to up the stakes. The most of my might. Shadow, rise and fight. Life is so brittle. Stop until next time. Another round will commence. Fight! 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 Give yourself to the void. Twin terrors. Mortal flesh is so fallible. Give yourself to the void. Only one lives with me. I find the struggle for supremacy. Give yourself to the void. Twin terrors. Life is so brittle. A flash of pleasure. Over all too quickly. At least die with some flair. Grip of the infinite. Shadow, rise and fight. Handle this. Tight tethers. Grasp your mortality tightly. Another challenger? Grip of the infinite. Resist the assault. A veil of safety and security. Tight tethers. Grasp your mortality tightly. Shadow, rise and fight. Grip until next time. Repeat my challenge.
With your death, this nightmare may finally end. I'm better. I'm not the only hunter. Dance! Dance! Let me...
terrible.
Save the future. The past must be sacrificed.
For the bandits, we're choosing to help Lair. For our ascendancy points, we go normal, cruel, merciless, eternal. In one of the large cluster jewels that I'm gonna highlight, there are two small cluster jewels that are mandatory for this build. Those two small cluster jewels should be on a base that goes increased mana reservation. Both of those small cluster jewels are mandatory to have, as they're gonna help you out with the mana reservation. You cannot skip them, unfortunately. And there's a second large cluster jewel near the CI that we're gonna be using to spread personality with our strength and int. Overall, the passive is very straightforward. There's not much happening over here. We're just trying to stack our int and our strength as high as we can. That's how we get our crit chance. The only mandatory mod on your Flask is to reduce mana cost of skills during the Flask effect on one of your Flask, and you need to have gain X amount of charges when you're hit by the enemy. But the problem becomes when you're gonna be fighting a bigger boss like Shaper, you won't be able to sustain your charges. So all you have to do is take out your Flask and put it Enduring Mana Flask with the same mod, and then you won't have any issues with the mana on the bigger bosses. Our helmet slot is a very flexible item, but I would recommend using a basic rare and just rolling the new implicit mods with increased mana reservation. We're getting that by spamming it with the Eater of the Worlds. So for our body armor, we have a couple options. We can use Skin of the Lords with the Iron Will, and we can save up about 3 points over a year. Or we can use Incandescent Heart. This will make us way tanky, as we're taking 25% of elemental damage as a chaos damage. Since we are CI, we are chaos immune, so that means we take 25 damage less from elemental hits. So for our amulet slot, we're gonna be using Aster Mantis. This is a mandatory item, as it gives us so much stats that it's hard to replace it. And an ointment that we're gonna be using is Charisma. Your belt slot is very flexible, but as long as you can get a belt with increased attributes and some resistance, ES, maybe strength, int, whatever you're missing, that's gonna be good enough. For our gloves, we're gonna be using Shaper's Touch with the implicit attack have X amount of critical chance. This will greatly help our Cyclone getting the initial crit. Our boots are very flexible, but you can get like a very basic rare that's gonna give you resistance, movement speed, maybe some int or maybe strength, and play around with the new implicit mods. For your rings, you're gonna be using one rare ring with as much as resistance as you can, some stats, and an open prefix for the non-challenge skills is a mandatory stat that we need on this ring. The second ring is gonna be Vivinsect. It's gem setup for our helmet. We're gonna be using Enlighten, Determination, Zealotry, Hatred. It's the gem setup for our main body armor. It's gonna be Cyclone, Custom Crit, Ice Nova, inspiration, added cold damage, and increased critical damage. In our ring, the Vivian set, we're gonna be keeping the discipline as it gets 5 more levels. Huge gem setup for our gloves. We're gonna be using Defiance Banner, Tempest Shield, Molten Shell, and we're gonna be using Precision. Keep this on a low level between 1 or 2. Here's the gem setup for our boots. We're gonna be using Dash, Second Wind, and then we're gonna be using Assassin Mark with Mark on support hit. The gem setup for our cosplay. We're gonna be using Frostbolt. We're gonna be using lesser multiple projectiles. We're gonna be using the Anomalous version for the reduced mana cost, and we're gonna be using the power charge on critical strike. This is the setup that's gonna be generating us the power charges. Here's the gem setup for our shield. We're gonna be using Vortex, Bone Chill, and Arcane Surge. Keep it on 1 level. If by any chance you're gonna be browsing the trade for Militant Faith and they're gonna be expensive, here's a quick trick. You can use Divine Orbs to get the influence of Dominus. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in my next video.